It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy, Millsy. Back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I, version 1.0 deck list of the commander in front of us in my quest to brew the magic world. You know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing, and that's what we're back to do today. The deck list is going to be down in that description for you below. As always, I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe, consider doing all that YouTube stuff. I'd appreciate it. The link to the Discord's in the description below, and it's been popping lately. I'd yell for you to come join. But today, we're continuing on with Absent Week, and I wanted to try to get at least a token deck in here if I could. If you know me, I love my token decks. And a partner pair that I've yet to ever cover on the channel that I thought would be a ton of fun would be Ikra Shidiqi and Prava. It matters because Ikra Shidiqi is from Tarkir, so I thought it would make sense to do it on this support, this set support. But of course, being in Absent colors makes a ton of sense for Absent Week. Ikra Shidiqi is a 5-mana 3/7 with Menace. Says whatever creature we control deals combat damage to a player, we gain life equal to that creature's toughness. And Prava says that as long as it's our turn, all of our tokens get +1/+4. So we're going to make these tokens, make them big on toughness, and when they hit, gain life off Ikra Shidiqi. So we're going to make tokens, get the tokens into attack, make them hit hard. I think the next thing we can do is use all this new toughness support, toughness matters style support to really take advantage of our tokens being bigger. And then since we're going to hopefully gain life off Ikra Shidiqi and maybe even off the tokens themselves, we can take advantage of being able to gain life and use life for certain abilities. So kind of wrap this all into a nice package, have some fun, and make us some tokens. I want to say thank you to the channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you've been seeing all our videos just a little bit early, check it out down below for just $1 a month. Well, we have a lot of ways to make tokens, including a couple new ones. Of course, we have that new Elspeth Stormslayer, doubling all the tokens we would make. Her +1 makes us a couple soldiers. Her 0 puts a counter on all of our creatures and gives them flying. I love it. Great strand of abilities here. Removal on the minus. There's a reason why she probably will be one of the best well-played doublers for a long time. In that, she packs so much value on her. Kaya, on the other hand, her doubler may only be on a -2, but she packs it up with a really nice +1, giving all of our creatures Death Touch land a turn and putting a counter on a token we control. I'd like it. The Death Touch is important. I mean, if you have a board of 10 tokens and you give them all Death Touch, your opponent really has to think about what they're trading into them, if they want to trade into them, which might be able to help us guarantee getting some damage through. Adeline, probably one of the best token makers we have, giving us a token that's tapped and attacking each player whenever we attack in general. Adeline doesn't have to attack to do it, which makes sure that we can use Adeline's ability the turn she comes down. Charismatic Conqueror gives our opponents the choice. Anytime an artifact or creature would enter their battlefield untapped, they can tap it. If they don't, we get a 1/1 token with lifelink. Again, with Prava, that turns into a 2/5. A very nice creature with lifelink for us. Of course, we're in Chatterfang's color, so it only makes sense to play Chatterfang to support our idea. Anytime we make a token, we make that tokens plus that many squirrels. We can sack squirrels for some removal. Chatterfang's just a great value engine in its own right. And of course, we want to play another doubler in Mondrak. We put some money in the deck in playing 2 doublers, Elspeth and Mondrak. We're not playing O'Hare Talker. We're not playing Anointed Procession just because they're a little bit expensive. I wanted to kind of pick 2. I like Mondrak because it can give itself indestructible, and I like Elspeth because we should have plenty of creatures to defend it. So those were my 2 choices there. Queen Alanal is a card I've had in Jetmir for a long time, and I really like. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures we control, and whenever we'd make a token, we make that many tokens plus a 1/1 soldier. Just nice to get an extra token, right? Every time we do that. Scooty, making those insects until we get to 6 or more lands on a land drop, and then at 6 or more, we just make other copies of Scootsworn. And then Tendershoot Dryad, getting a Sapperling on everybody's turn, and once we hit a certain number of permanents get ascend, all of our Sapperlings then become base 3/3s. Just a nice ability and lets us help make those tokens on everybody's turns. Pest Infestation is a really interesting X-costed token generation spell. We can destroy up to X target artifacts and enchantments and then make twice X pests, 1/1s that when they die gain us a life. I just like this ability because we could potentially take out some mana rocks and some key enchantments and then just make a bunch of pests for it. March of the Multitudes lets us convoke to make a ton of 1/1s with lifelink. Again, Prava makes those 2/5s with lifelink. Just a really nice body, especially for Ikra Shidiqi. But then they have lifelink, so we don't even need Shidiqi to gain the life back, and really just helping us out there. Secure the Waste makes X1/1 warriors at instant speed. Great way to leave some mana up and use it before your turn, so that way they can, come in and be attackable with on your turn. Horn of Valhalla can make a ton of soldier tokens on its adventure side, and then you could bring it in and attach something to give it a little buff for each crit you control. Dollmaker's Shop makes some toys on attack, and then when you get to the certain amounts of mana, you can pay 6 to open up that gallery side to give all your creatures base toughness equal to the number of creatures you control, so they become XXs, where X is that number. And then I lied, we're playing another doubler in Parallel Lives. I forgot about that. I thought we were only playing 2, but we're playing Parallel Lives as well, just doubling the number of tokens you would make. So again, just try to make sure all of our tokens can get in and get ready for a future turn with Prava to deal some damage. But we can also care about tokens. Things like Enduring Vitality can make all of our tokens, all of our creatures tap for mana to help us cast our things. Mirkwood Bats has each of our opponents lose a life whenever we make a token. Good way to start, just trying to nick our opponents out a life at a time while we prep our board. Caretaker's Talent can draw us a card each turn whenever we make a token. This pairs really well with things like Tendershoot Dryad. Since we make a sapling on everybody's turn, we draw a card on everybody's turn. And then once it gets to full level, we can buff all of our tokens. But again, that draw every turn is really nice for doing something we already want to do. Insidious Roots, just like Vitality, is going to let them all tap for mana. We're not going to really bring too many creatures back out of our graveyard to take advantage of its bottom ability. But for just 2 mana, it's well worth it for how many tokens we're going to have. And then Intangible Virtue, give him that little buff and vigilance for just some better attacking and blocking. But since Ikra Shidiqi cares about gaining life, I think we can pay off gaining life. Accomplished Alchemist is a 4-mana 2/5 that taps for a mana of any color, but can also tap for X mana of any color, where X is the number of life we've gained this turn. It's going to be possible to gain a good chunk of life on an average turn, so it could turn into a really nice mana dork for us. Dina loses our opponent a life each time we gain a life. Remember that each creature hitting for Ikra Shidiqi is going to be a different trigger, meaning Dina can go off multiple times. Same thing for Enduring Tenacity. Whenever we gain life, target opponent loses that much life. Each trigger means, a separate trigger, making sure that, our opponents lose some extra lives. Angelic Accord, if we can hit 4 life on each turn, we're going to make a 4/4 Angel. That's really nice to, have another token in. Cleric class is kind of a fun combination. It would gain us 1 extra life every time we gain life. At level 2, it starts distributing counters whenever we gain life, and at level 3, it can recurrent something back, but truthfully, level 1's what we want. Level 2's an upside when we can get it. And then we have a enchantment copy of Enduring Tenacity and Sanguine Bond, same ability. Whenever we gain life, target opponent loses that much life. Just to really take advantage of Shidiqi being on the battlefield and getting that life to hurt our opponents. But we also have a couple ways to use life. Bolus's Citadel lets us play cards off the top of our library and cast and play lands and spells off the top. If we cast a spell off the top, we pay life instead of its mana value. This is huge, since if Shidiqi's down, we're going to be gaining a ton of life, meaning that we can actually use it to kind of extend our turns, playing more off the top. Stronghold Arena is kind of an interesting card. We can kick it when it comes in to gain some life if we care about that. But it says whenever one or more creatures we control hit a player in combat, we can reveal the top card of our library and put it into our hand. If we do, we lose life equal to its mana value. So here's just some extra draw we get when we're doing the things we already want to do anyway and hitting our opponents. And we don't mind paying the life because we're going to be gaining so much of it. I think the last thing, and this is where we get to use some of the kind of other themes we've been doing for this week in Toughness Matters. Because Prava buffs all of our tokens by +1/+4, it would be ideal if our creatures dealt damage equal to their toughness, right? Kind of like, how Shidiqi gains life equal to their toughness. Well, we have things like the Lumberknot, Tortoise, and Doran that all have our creatures assign damage equal to their toughness. So then a 1/1, is going to be dealing 5 instead of 2, with Prava's buff, really allowing it to deal more damage and gain us that life back with the Shidiqi. Tristani just gains us life equal to a creature's toughness when it comes in. This is important with Prava out because it's going to automatically get the +1/+4, meaning even a 1/1's coming in and gaining us 5 life. The Assault Formation is going to let us just do that, damage equal to its toughness. And then Jaws of Defeat, since all of our tokens we're making are normally 1/1's, because of Prava, they'd be coming in as 2/5s. Jaws of Defeat would see a 3 damage difference, a 3 power toughness difference every time, getting to translate that damage to our opponents, just allowing us to deal something to our opponents along the way. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again, no deck's ever complete. This is my version 1.0 at Ikra Shidiqi, and I think it works well as a tokens deck. But going into testing, I want to say, are we making enough tokens? Do we want something fun like Galton Maverick on the top end that can make us a bunch of tokens or a big token if we need it? I like Galton Maverick. I feel like it could make sense in a deck like this. March of the Worldoos could just make our deck even better, turning all of our 1/1s into 6/6s before their other buffs, just allowing them to become 7/10s with Prava, getting us a ton of life. Right, it could be a really fun example of a benefit there with Prava and the March of the Worldoos. The only upside to March of the Worldoos, and so it didn't come into the deck, and just because I was trying to find a spot for it. But the thing I like about the Worldoos is anytime an opponent casts the spell not on their turn, we get to make another token, just having more access. And then if we're going to have a ton of tokens, we're going to have a ton of toughness. We could think about bringing something like Baitor Kin to All in. Of course, very popular at the moment for its abilities. If we have 40 or more toughness at the end of our turn, having our opponent's life total rounding up of life, feels really good. But that's not what our deck's trying to do. But I feel like we're going to end up getting there with how much of our toughness of our tokens, right, Prava's buffing. So it's something to consider on the back end. Like, does bring that effect really come in? If I'm honest, March of the Worldoos is probably the card of these three I bring in first. I really like Galton Maverick. It's a big creature on its own, which is really nice, but this ability is really nice to get these lifelinking vampires. So it just gives you some thought to consider, right, as you go into testing. But let's do what we love to do most on the channel and get into our playtest. Remember, the goal of playtest on our channel is not to find a magical Christmas land. It's not to show off our best plays, but it's to get in some game scenarios and see how we set this thing on up. Here we're keeping a 4-lander with Rampant Growth. Voice of Victory makes some tokens on that mobilize and stops opponents from casting spells on our turn, and there's that Alchemist. So turn 1, we draw the Lumbernauts. That's pretty cool. Going to work really well with Prava. I think I'm just going to go right for the Rampant Growth this turn. I guess I could get the Voice of Victory down, but I kind of like the idea of trying to, right, get a little bit more ramped up. Here we could go for Prava, but I think it makes sense probably to just go for the Voice of Victory and the Nature's Lore, just to get some more, just get some more stuff down. Now maybe we can, do something else here in our next turn. Now we're at 6 mana. We've got Marshall Kusa. We're now at the mana of Ikra Shidiqi. I think Prava makes more sense first, especially if we want these mobilized triggers to go off. But I don't know if we really want them this turn because of them. We can't protect the Voice of Victory right now. I wish I had one more mana so I could play the Lumberknot too, right? But so does Prava make the most sense? Would it make more sense to get into something like this to give us extra mana for the next turn? I guess technically because we don't know if another land's coming. I think this makes the more sense for now. We hope we hit a land. We don't, but I think now it makes sense to Prava plus maybe the Lumberknot. This monument's really nice and could be useful on a future turn. The only problem with this monument is this isn't giving me tokens that stick around. So it's kind of tough to want to just jam this right now because we're going to end up losing a key creature. But have the victory attack. It makes 2/2/5s, right? They do damage equal to their toughness. Maybe we can get some damage in. Hopefully the Voice of Victory can attack somewhere safe. If it can, it just doesn't attack. There's no reason to get ourselves involved in something. I guess instead of playing the Lumberknot, we could also put 4 mana into getting the Soldier. I think we're okay for the moment. Here, I guess we could play the Monument. But again, we don't get to keep these tokens. So it doesn't make me want to, like I said, it doesn't make me really want to dump a ton of life into this. I think what I would try to do is Ikra Shidiqi. And I think I'd probably try to make a ton of attacks here. My goal is to get as many of these two, and then with Voice Victory and the 2 tokens. Try to get as many in as I can for the Shidiqi to gain us life. Because then potentially the Alchemist could just give us a bunch of mana, right? So if they attack here, remember these guys are effectively 4/4s. This is effectively a 3/3 now, right? Because of Prava's ability. And these 2/1/1s come in as 2/5s. Let's say 2 of them connect. Let's say 2 of the 4/4s connect. I'm getting 8 life, right? That's 9 mana total. I can Monument and Angelic Accord, or I could dump that 8 mana into Prava just to make a couple soldiers, right? To have around for a future turn, right? But that's kind of my thought here is not only does it gain me life, but I could use Prava, and that's what I'd probably do, make a couple of the soldiers. Just so that way on a future turn I have more creatures around. Now this turn I could think about doing something like Eldrazi Monument because now I have the fodder to protect. But now the nice thing is all my creatures are in the air, so they have an even better chance of hitting my opponents. Meaning I have a better chance of gaining more life, dumping more mana into Prava, right, with the Alchemist. And this is what I kind of like about the Alchemist, is that this mana can now be turned into that Horn of Valhalla for a big amount of tokens. We could Martial Coup to wipe the board and keep our creatures alive because they have indestructible. Like, there's so many routes we can take now with this board state, which is what I kind of like about this Ikra Shidiqi Prava combo. And this is just one line, that we could see. But let's get into playtest number 2. Keeping a 3-lander with Farseeks. We do have the ramp there. We got the Cleric class. Lost Whole Core gains life when tokens come in, or when any creature comes in. And we have the Martial Coup. I think the hardest thing to forget is that Prava can make tokens. Prava just makes them at not the most ideal rate of mana. So we don't always want to be reliant on Prava to make them. I think we'll just go tap land here. Turn 2, I kind of just like the Farseek. Truthfully, I kind of like getting into Adeline here quickly, just so we can start getting these tokens going. Yes, there's a hot chance some of them may just die in combat since they're 1/1s, but I kind of like the idea of just trying to get them in and get them down. I could also go like Prava plus Cleric class this turn, and then this next turn, right, then I could go Swamp. Oh, I only have 2 white sources. I was going to say Swamp Adeline Alasso Core, but I don't. Oh, Elspeth could be an option too. Elspeth +1 for the soldiers, maybe? Getting 2 soldiers. And kind of, right, soaking up here for the next turn. Ooh, Charismatic Conqueror is good, but this could just be time for Ikra Shidiqi, right? Ikra, we could either 0 Elspeth to get these in the air and get them to hit for sure for the life gain, or we could just Adeline. We need, which would get us more tokens this turn, which is my thought because of the doubling. And then, I almost feel like I would just make 2 more soldiers unless I need something removed. Right, go to combat, have these other soldiers attack. They're 2/5s. They're in great shape. We make 6 humans, right? 2 attacking each person with Adeline. They're all 2/5s, right? So these have a hot chance of surviving this combat as 2/5s, right? And then as we come back to our turn, maybe now is the time to Ikra Shidiqi, zeroing Elspeth to get all of these in the air and putting a counter on them. Ikra Shidiqi can attack, but I don't think it really matters because now all of these are in the air as 3/6s, right? And we're going to be gaining a ton of life, and probably just overall being in a really great position at this point with all the tokens that we have. As long as nobody has removal, right, for the Elspeth or for Ikra Shidiqi. Getting into playtest number 3, keeping a 3-lander here with that Mirkwood Bats, Insidious Roots. There's the Bolas' Citadel and Sol Rings. Not a bad hand. We've got some nice starts. I think we get the Sol Ring down turn 1. We'll see if we need to take turn 2 off because we could get Prava down this turn. We can either do this or the Glade. I guess either way they're coming in tapped. So might as well get the land that can come in untapped in this turn. We got 3 mana. We could Chatterfang or we could Prava. I think what makes more sense. I can't make tokens next turn. Well, I can with the Valhalla. It would be 3 tokens, so I could do that plus 3 squirrels next turn. That might not be a bad choice, just to get the party started and then get Prava down later. We could try to set up. I've got 6 mana. I could try to set up 5 mana. I was gonna say we could try to set up Mirkwood Bats for the next turn. But I think it makes more sense just to get the 3 soldiers and the three squirrels. Right now we've got a nice board of tokens getting ready for Prava next turn to buff. Right, comes back to our turn. Now we've got 6 mana. Prava, play the Insidious Roots, and I now have 6 extra mana. Do I take the setup turn, or do I just go ahead and ram in? Is my question, because I could just play the Bolas's Citadel and just really set up. Right, is my thought. Tap them all to just set up the Bolas's Citadel. Card on top is a Plains. We already played a land this turn, but that's okay. No attacks, right? Because I guess we could attack with Chatterfang, but coming into our turn, we see Doran on top. That's ideal, right, with all of our tokens because of all the stuff we have. So we'll pay the 3 life. Remember, we don't want to play the land yet, just in case we need to play a land off the top. I think we put the Valhalla on Prava. I guess unless somebody has a nice Forest Walk target, then we put it on, right, Chatterfang. But I think we attach it this turn, right? If I go Mirkwood, I would have enough mana to still attach it, but I just have no ways to make tokens this turn, right? I guess Prava's ability. It's 4 mana to make one, so that's 6. I could make 2 tokens this turn. So I think I'll just play the Mirkwood, take the attack with Prava and the tokens, right? They're all 2/5s. Might as well just take the attack. Or we paid life for this, so Mirkwood, that might as well play the Nature's Lore just to get some value from it. I mean, 2 life I feel like is worth the mana for next turn, especially since Prava can start making us tokens, right? We see a Plains on top. Take the attacks. I mean, not too much great there. I guess we could have Ikra'd instead of Mirkwood Bats. Actually, now that I think about it, might have made more sense because then we can gain a bunch of life here, right? If any of these guys hit through. And then on our next turn, we see just lands on top, so play it off the top. There's another land. 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 mana. If I don't want to use my tokens, it's 8 mana. I could just go for 2 soldiers, right? If I wanted to, that would give me 2 soldiers and 2 squirrels. But I think we just continue attacking, right? Getting the life. These are hitting as 5s because of Doran. This is a 4, 10. This is an 11, 15 Prava, right? Just hitting hard. And I think we're in decent shape on that one. Again, we would have loved to have seen gotten the Mirkwood down earlier, but I think we still effectively ran the game plan we'd want to see run. Let's do one more. Keep it a 3-lander here with that Anok Strike Guide, Soul Ring, Champion of Lambhole, and Scourgesworm. So a very token-heavy hand we've got started off here. We'll get that Soul Ring in turn 1. I don't think there's any way for me to get Lambhole and Strike Leader in this turn. I could get Lambhole and Strike Leader in next turn. So I think I just Scourgesworm. Come to this next turn. Lambhole. Play the land. Insect. Counter here. Anok. Counter here. Right? Now we've got this party getting started, right? Now our things are going to get in on more or less unblockable once this Lambhole starts growing. Now we come into our next turn. Insect, counter, right? I've got 6 mana, 5 if I want to put down Eldrazi Monument, which I kind of do. I feel like we're going to have enough with these goblins we're about to get this turn. I also kind of like the idea of getting Prava since they're going to hit even harder. If I do Prava, I can't put down anything else. If I do the Monument this turn, I'd have 7 next turn. I could put Shidiqi in this turn, since they're all going to be basically unblockable. We would just gain a ton of life. I just wish I had a way to get 1 more mana out of this. But that's okay. Go to combat. The Strike Leader attacks, making 3 more goblins. Basically, everything's unblockable. Yeah, they're only hitting for 1, but it's gaining us life, is my thought. We're gaining 5, 6, 7, 15 life, which I think is still beneficial. Come to this turn, I think what? Eldrazi Monument Dina. Same thing. I guess we could. I like the indestructible, right? Just getting that little bit of protection. And now, right, every life we gain is draining for 1. So we're getting 9. We're getting 9, 10, 11, 12 because of Enoch drains, right? Plus all the damage here. So I think this is really starting to gel, right, into a nice board state. At the start of our next turn, we just sack a goblin and keep the party going. Eventually, we could hold some mana up for Crescendo, but I think my next play would just be Prava to make these even bigger, right? And just we can protect the board with Enoch if we need to. And I think we're just in good shape. But let me know, what do you think of Ikra Shidiqi and Prava down in the comment section below? I like it. Seemed kind of fun for this abs and tokens style list. You've got the life gain. You've got plenty other payoffs you could put into it. I'd love to know if you have this type of deck, or if you're interested. I'd love to know what you think in the comment section below, and I will catch you on the next one.